Here we go. So let's do that again, now with the mic unmuted, which makes a lot more sense. So, hey everyone. You might just see the corona epidemic has reached us too, and we need to work on that. And the first tiny mishap already happened, which was me just not unmuting the mic. No worry, chat, you'll be able to hear us. That's the plan with the mask. So nobody could see the sound check, right? So we hope everybody's well, and this is why I will now try to get rid of this, because it's much better, right? Phew, and it's warm. So here we are with the TYPO3 release stream, and we hope everything works. We're not entirely sure whether it will work, but hopefully we can do a couple of things. The big question is sound up now or isn't it? We now need to wait for the, I think it's 20 seconds delay or stuff. Sound should be there. If not, this is going to be like the shortest release party ever. Because, well, everybody said sound should be there. Is it? Chat, I need your help. Who knows? Ah, va bene. All right, so let me try and click around here a bit. So we need to change the layout so we can see who's there. So as you can see, we have Susie on top. I would say, give a round of applause for Susie, but since she's out, we can just go. And I think there's clap emojis too. Then we have Benji and Andy, who will be supporting us right now, or supporting the stream, so you can get some insights of what's up. In general, everyone in the community we know of is fine, which is great. We hope everybody watching this is fine. And it's important, we're going to do the public service announcements, stay separated from other people, be safe, be healthy. Okay, so let me try whether I can do the presenting stuff. No, that's not it. Is it? Ooh. We'll see whether that works. Okay. So let's just go through some of the things that we want to show to you today. So as I already told you, the people in the stream, myself, Susanne Moog, Andy Fernandez, and Benjamin Kott, you can give them all a shout out on Twitter right now. These are the Twitter handles, because this was we stuck this together in, I think this is iteration 5 of those. We got into streaming, not because we wanted to become Twitch streamers or something, just because we wanted to get this out to you. So that's that. And we want to talk to you a bit about the making of TYPO3 version 10, which is a huge milestone for the project, for the team, for everybody involved. Oh boy, this is warm. So one of my favorite quotes from Benny is that security and stability is TYPO3's top priority. And I think we've gone a long way with that. And we have a great version, and it's not that, ultra feature rich, but it's a lot more stable. It's a lot more secure than before. And we have quite a few goodies up that we want to share with you later today. So the obvious number crunching that we have to do. So it's been 566 days since we released version 9, which personally was my favorite up until this afternoon. We've had 265 contributors who did more than 7,000. That would be awesome, but 2,700 commits. And if you divide that, you'll see that it's a lot of action going on in the system. So we had an average of 4 commits per day. We had roughly 9,000 files changed. We had a lot of lines of code removed, so more than 200,000. And those were replaced with 280,000 lines of better code, of course. And you'll see this in your daily use with the system, that the core code is a lot more readable. It's easier to understand. It's easier to debug in case you come across something. It's actually pretty great. And with me, I have a couple people who want to maybe unmute themselves now. That would be great. And show some of our personal highlights of version 10 that we have. And while the other 3 will be going through the feature presentations, I will be going through chat and try to answer your questions and stuff as to the best of my abilities. So this is the moment where I think Andy takes over.
Yes.
Hopefully I can get this done. I need to stop presenting here. All right. So now I need to swap to... Oh, you did it. You did it. Ta-da! Andy, take it away.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. How do I start? I'm pretty sure you got calls from your customers because they forgot their passwords for the backend logins. We get them too. So we thought this needs a solution, and you may see in the backend login here, we have a little link for you of forgot your password, which means we have finally a password reset functionality. This just requires an email address for your backend users. And if that email address is entered, you can simply request a mail, and the mail contains a link. But this feature requires that every user in your system has an email address. If you have no users at all, this whole feature is not available. And if only some users have an email address defined, this means that only those users can request a new password. And sending an email was probably successful, as we can see a green message here stating that a backend user with an email address exists and mail has been sent. But for security reasons, we always display this message because otherwise we might have an information disclosure issue. So if a user tries to get a password reset link and in actuality he doesn't get a mail, maybe that's the issue. No email address is defined for that user. But as we should have a mail now, hopefully. Yes, there's a mail. Glad. I can see a description. Email address was triggered. Password reset was triggered for that email address. I have a link to reset my password, and this link is valid for a maximum of 2 hours. This limit is not configurable for security reasons. And if I click this link, just take some time, I get a new form, which is a little bit styled like my backend login. Now I'm able to enter a new password. I hope I entered both correct. And I'm able to log in again as my password was reset. I will do this now to see if it really worked. Ta-da! I have a backend again. Let's see.
Andy, first question, can we change the mail template?
Of course you can change mail template because we have introduced a new mail API for this.
Spoilers!
I won't spoil because this is not introduced by me. It's introduced later, maybe. I don't know. But back to the to the backend login, the backend password reset, there are some other things to consider, because maybe your users are not configured in your TYPO3 system, but maybe from a third party or authentication service, maybe an LDAP, or for example. So what do you do now if you don't need this? Well, it's pretty easy. You can. My backend just died. Perfect. Sorry about this. Better. You can head to the configuration settings of your TYPO3 installation. Configure your system-wide installation options. And since I'm lazy, I'm using the search of the modal to search for options. You directly see two checkboxes. The first enables the feature or disables the feature at all. And even in the description, there is stated that you might want to disable this if your users are configured via LDAP or whatever. And for additional security considerations, you can disable these features for admin users, which means if I just do this right now, because I'm an admin, hopefully this should now prevent sending any mails. I can just try that. I will delete my old email just to be sure I don't mix things up. We'll head back to my login. Said I forgot my password. Got my email address again. And I request another reset. And again, I get a message that a mail has been sent. I should check my inbox. But my mailbox is empty, which means this setting successfully prevents requesting new passwords for backend users that are admins. Some insights about this feature. We store a token for the backend user that requested the password reset link. And the token itself is hashed like we do with passwords, for example, for better security, in case somebody is able to get access to the backend user table, or maybe we can just somehow find a token somewhere, maybe through another issue in the core. But like I said, it's hashed, so you can't use this value right now because the system behind it checks the hash again with the data that's incoming. So we think this should be safe for this use case. Another thing to consider is that we have a rate limit, which is also not configurable for security reasons, which means a backend user or anybody else can request up to 3 resets per 30 minutes per email address. So this also avoids a bit of denial of service for installation and blocking the reset functionality, as if you resend the backend password 2 times, if you request 2 times a link, of course, only the last token is valid and the previous one is invalidated. Which also brings up another aspect of this. If somebody requests a reset link and the user is still able to log in without even interacting with that mail that just was sent, the token is reset. So any link is invalidated immediately after logging in. So yeah, give it a try. We hope your customers won't call you anymore because they forgot their passwords. So I'm done with that feature right now. I would hand back to Matthias.
You will? Okay. Which is interesting. Personally, I know it sounds like such a tiny thing, but this is my personal favorite, to be honest. Because as you can imagine, there's 2 website addresses on every TYPO3 page you will see on every login it's typo3.com or typo3.org. People take a look at typo3.org, they don't get a result. They go to typo3.com, and what do they see? A phone number. So we are handling, I think, at least twice a day. We need to talk to editors who simply forgot their passwords, and we need to manually reset those, or at least, well, we can't reset them. What we need to tell them is how to reset those. This is actually why we did the YouTube video on that. So that was for your pleasure and ours, arguably, because it was just like it's getting too much. So this is why we now have this feature built into core. And to be honest, it's industry standard anyways. And since you can disable it, if you don't like it, just turn it off. So that works. But there's more interesting stuff coming up. And hopefully Susie has some stuff to show.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Basically, what Andy just showed you is making the backend accessible again for your users. So I'm going to talk about accessibility in the more common sense in the IT. So let me present my screen. You might have seen this before. This is, if it's loading, this is the TYPO3 backend. I hope everybody saw a backend before. And you might notice some small changes already by just looking at it, because, for example, the module menu on the left has gotten a bit more space, but there's a pretty cool feature. And here we have to thank our own Benji. I can now tap through the module menu. So, for example, if I'm at the page module and I want to go somewhere else, I can just go and tap through it. Let's see, we want to use the view module, for example. And now I don't have page selected. So in earlier versions of TYPO3, I would have a problem now, because selecting a page in the page tree was not possible for the new page tree with the keyboard. So this is one of the biggest changes in accessibility in TYPO3 version 10, that now I'm not only able to use the keyboard navigation on the module menu, but also on the page tree. As you can see now, I can go through the page tree with my arrow keys and select the page I want to preview, for example, this one. Well, that doesn't actually make much sense, because that's the hidden page without content. But it's working, as you can see. And then I decide, okay, maybe I'm not wanting to, I don't want to view a page, but rather I want to edit content. So I tap back here, and then I can tap back to the page tree. And let's just go to features. And so this is really my nerd feature thing, because I don't have to move my hand and use the mouse for anything, but can just tap through everything. And then I say I want to add content, and here we have something from the more usability area. We have a search now. That's also, again, for people like me who are notoriously lazy and can't remember anything, because in this case I would need to remember in which tab the content element I want to add is. So in a good installation, which you probably have, this might seem logical to you, or in this case to the author of the Bootstrap package, so that I have media elements and media, but I can't remember. I'm not made for this. So what I can remember is how it's called. So I'm going like, thumbnails, that's here. Okay, so I can insert that now. This made a lot of things easier for me, and will probably also make things easier for your editors. I don't want to save that, actually. On the accessibility part, we have lots of smaller changes too, because as you might know, accessibility is something that can take a lot of time to get right for everything, because it's lots of small things. It's like descriptions, it's like tag attributes. And in our case, we have an initiative, the Accessibility Initiative, and I want to thank all members of that initiative for pushing that topic forward again, and especially Michael Telkamp, who is organizing an accessibility hour and is pushing that initiative forward and making great progress in TYPO3 in the backend. So we have lots of all these smaller improvements and all kinds of areas, for example, in the user module or in the access module. So if you see him anywhere or on Twitter, please keep your distance. Thank him, thank the initiative members, and let's hope that we get an even more accessible backend in the future. And now I need to ask Mathis if there's any questions in the chat. If there aren't.
The first question was, how do you move between the page tree and the module tree? But Chad has answered this, and this is what I love about this community. The second question was, has the page tree become faster on more than 20,000 pages? As far as I know, yes, but not as fast as we would like it to have become.
Yeah, there were some improvements on the page tree speed, but it's still not done, I think. Any more?
Nope.
Okay, so then let's go.
You may continue.
I won't continue. I will do a
Benji may continue.
Handover from accessibility to assets, which is the same letters.
Hopefully this works. I mean, this is. Hopefully you can see everything and the sound is okay. I have no idea whether that works.
I hope you see my screen. Hi everyone. Glad you're joining us. Also, I hope you're doing well. So I want to talk to you a bit about assets, and especially the asset collector. This is something the core introduced in 10.3. While you may have noted that there is a structured content initiative, so they are working on streamlining content creation and all that kind of stuff. And well, it's a complex topic, and it takes some time to get it right. And we finally now made the first steps going into that direction. And what the asset collector more or less does, it will replace, not currently fully, but it's usable in a lot of places. The normal includes you do for your CSS and JavaScript files within Tapestry. And I'd like to show you some examples and some use cases for this. You finally can include your assets like CSS and JavaScript files in any fluid template that's rendered through the page renderer. And it will automatically correct all these assets, combine it, sort it, and well, spit it out to the front end. The good thing is that we now started to give identifiers or unique identifiers to each and every asset we include. That means we can actually identify them later on, do special stuff with them, remove them, and at some point also put dependencies to these assets actually. Yeah. That means if you put in your carousel or whatever, and you see, okay, my carousel needs the base stuff. So this is something we are looking to get right into the future. It's not currently in right now, but we are moving, and this is the important part here. So as you can see, it's really simple. It's really f asset CSS identifier on href, and you can include whatever you want. And the biggest benefit we have here in comparison to the normal TypeScript includes is that we can add arbitrary arguments or attributes to these assets. That means if you need special data attributes, we are, for example, using it for the user-centric extension that you may have seen all these cookie consent stuff now popping out on all the official Tapestry websites. So we are using this to identify our scripts for user-centrics and, well, deliver it or let it be then handled through user-centrics to only include tracking if you actually hopefully agree to this, so we can get some data. But it's also usable through the PHP API we have available. So it's normal general utility, make instance, asset collector, and then you can just add JavaScript files. And yeah, I've got two examples for you. The one is a simple one. Well, you get the identifier. The second one, the identifier should be optional. But what you can see is I put a priority in there. Priority means it's more or less like force on top, as you know it from the past. And we add additional data attributes to this element, what will be rendered in the front end later on. So the asset collector makes it really easy for you to include CSS and JavaScript files directives for the view helper. I have to mention that also all images are now passed through the asset collector. This is what you see in the admin panel in the front end. This is currently, to my knowledge, the only place where the information gets use of. But we will see where we can head there in the future. So it means all assets actually will be handled through this single component, and you know exactly what's going on in your page. So that's really great. You can add it directly to PHP. Assets are included only once through unique identifiers. Assets can be removed through the unique identifier, and priority flags enable ordering in DOM and change positioning. And yes, you can get all media on this page. So to just quickly jump out, I made an example. So this is the current implementation of the syntax highlighting extension. And as you can see, you have this normal page include JS footer, and then it includes the JavaScript file for each and every page. This is something you probably don't want to have if you are really keen into performance and want to really push your page speed through to the top and really get as fast as possible. I know B13 and Benny Mac do a lot of stuff in this area. So they're using it for the M pages and really optimizing CSS chunks and JavaScript chunks on page level. So that's really, really cool. And in this case, we can also make use of this. Yeah. So I switched to a branch where I've included this. As you can see, my JavaScript setup.txt file just changed. I can just remove everything, and I can actually just use the asset view helper in all my normal contourment templates. And through the identifier, even if I have 20 of them on the same page, it only gets rendered out once. So that's pretty neat. Yeah. And of course, you can do more easily stuff like using variables in your includes and all this kind of stuff. You can better make usage of conditions and whatever you will like. So you will figure out how to handle this. We are still not sure how we even can more improve this, but Benny promised me, so that I've seen he's in the chat, that we will continue to work in the next versions on making it even more possible. The bootstrap package will probably never be part of core, and that's a good thing. So that's for this. So, and then I'm actually done with what I wanted to tell you about the asset collector for this, and I would like to jump back to Susie, and she likes to tell you a bit about form improvements, if I'm correct. Oh, I'm mixed up. Mix it up. Let's check.
No, you haven't.
No. It's
It's perfect. Then
it's all
see you later,
good,
guys, and girls, and everyone.
One guy, all girls, and everyone. Okay, that makes sense.
Priorities.
Yes.
Yeah, let me tell you a bit about improvements that have been made in the TYPO3 form extension. I hope you can see my backend and my wonderful test forms. So the first thing that has been rewritten is the form creation wizard. That's also the biggest visible change we have in form. So if I create a new form, I now get this shiny wizard where I can select the form type and then, for example, choose a template and a form name like this. And then I get this summary, and I can also go back and forth in the wizard. And after clicking finish, as before, I go to the form editor. The multi-step wizard you saw there is a JavaScript component that you can also use in your own backend modules if you have anything like that where this kind of multi-step with previous next buttons makes sense. So this is not only specific for form, but you can use that too. Maybe somebody is going to tell something about the JavaScript API in general later today, but we'll see. Another thing that changed here is that I can now, if I, for example, I don't like that this is called subject. I want to call this super subject. Let's call it super subject. I can just double click it and press enter, and then this is changed directly, and it's also changed here directly. So this is just a small improvement to make editing things faster. Then we have on the right hand side over here, we have the finisher settings and, for example, email to receiver. What we can now do is, in earlier versions, you could only have one email address here and here, and here. And now everywhere where you can use email addresses, you can have multiple email addresses. So if you have multiple recipients or CC or BCC addresses, you can add all of them. This was missing and requested by a lot of people for quite some time. And we directly see the next thing. This is the HTML part here, where we can now decide whether we want to send plain text emails or HTML and plain text simultaneously. So these are some of the main new features that the form editor has gotten. And sorry. And this is mainly the editor level. And I like another thing more, and that's more the integrator level, because if you ever had the problem that there's like a million YAML files everywhere that make up the form configuration, and you were trying to figure out how to change something, and that was pretty hard. So one bigger change for that was that we now only have one setup file, form setup YAML, for the core configuration of form, which is still using multiple different little files. But I have one file that gives me an overview of the complete setup. And if that's not enough for me, then I can go to the TYPO3 backend again and go to the configuration module on the left here and choose form YAML configuration on top. And then I get an overview of the merged configuration here, so I can actually see which properties are set to which value, which is pretty useful and made my life at least a lot easier. I hope it makes yours easier too, and you can use that. So that's it for form from my side. And as we can see, we had some changes on the email finishers for form, and maybe in the area of email there are some other changes that we could talk about.
But hold on right there.
I'm holding.
Yes, there's questions.
Questions?
Yes. Benji is spoiling. Uh-huh.
No, I returned.
Yeah.
No one seen anything.
Yeah. Auto stuff. Like,
stuff.
You didn't see that. Hold on, I got this. So the first question was, where is it? Header. Email finisher text editable in form manager interface.
What?
Yes. Okay. That was the question. Maybe we need to rework that wording a bit. The other question was, I think it should say, is this also working to use fields like the, like square, what is it, curly brace marker?
Yes.
In the receiver's email text.
In the what email text?
Yes. So the email that the receiver gets, the recipient of the mail, can I use the marker field thingy in there as well?
I don't know, because that hasn't changed as far as I know.
We'll get back to that later. Next question is form mails to database. Isn't there database finisher anyways? I think so.
So yeah, that's a bit. We need to differentiate. There is a database finisher, but not in the form editor, because that was mainly meant as a basic starting point for getting stuff into the database. But if you have more advanced use cases, or you have relations, stuff like that, then you can do one of two things. You could either use that as a base, or you could take a look at, I think it's called form log extension, which basically can log every extension, every form sent to the database.
Yeah. I mean, this is also, if you start logging, whoa, okay, something happened to the video, Mike. See?
What?
I was just I was just shaking off JPEG artifacts from my. So there's also a point, if you save emails to the database, you might run into serious GDPR issues really fast. So this is something to consider. Yep. Okay, and so I mean, Benji did spoil, but luckily nobody saw that spoiling thing coming. So Benji, you got something new up your sleeve?
Maybe we'll see. Just let me present my screen now again. You're excited? I am. So, oh, sorry, I can't help you with that. So, but as you mentioned already, let's talk a bit about HTML-based templated emails. So, if you're really into how emails have been sent in the past, you may have known that we were using SwiftMail for that until version 10. In terms of standardization, we decided, and SwiftMail is, I think, discontinued. So we moved to Symphony Mailer and implemented this. So and with this, a lot of new opportunities came up. We are going to tackle. So at the first glance, if we have a look at this little code example, well, it doesn't change too much from what you know. The team did a really great job, so that you mostly do not need to adapt your code a lot. The only problem you will face is that you probably used the mail message in the past and set the body. You now need to actually differentiate between text and HTML. Otherwise, it's working exactly the same. So that's really perfect, perfectly done. So, and what we also have is the classical mail message, so that wraps this standard Tapestry stuff around it. But we can also now provide a fluid email, template to this. As you can see, we are just simply replacing the mail message with a fluid email. And then we can assign a template to this. So this is fully customizable. It will by default use the new templates shipped by Core that Andreas already showed you. You've seen the reset functionality of the password. And that's pretty cool. But you can also extend the templates completely on your own. So this is done through Tapestry Configures, mail, layout, root paths, and whatever you know from Fluid. You can just set it there. It's in the commented out section. You can just add your own paths, and well, if Fluid finds matching templates, it will just yield them. That means if you want to change the default layout, for example, that's totally possible if you don't do anything else. Otherwise, you can pass constructor arguments with your custom template path to the Fluid email instance, and it will then ignore what's configured for the system and just use these paths. So you don't need to manually make a Fluid standalone instance and configure it anymore. This is handled by Core now. And what we'll see then is, well, we already seen this. This is a default test email being sent out from the system when you hit this environment thingy and test it. And you already ask about, okay, how can I customize it? Yeah, because who doesn't want to customize it? And the great stuff is Tapestry already does it for you. Yeah. As you can see, this is the same test email, and it uses the login logo and the login color I've set into my backend. I will quickly show you where you can find the settings, so that's easy customizing. If you're fine with this and just need a logo and another color, you're done. No big configurations. If you already set a custom login screen for your customers and put a logo inside, the emails are already customized if you upgrade your system. So that's cool, right? So let's have a quick look. That's the wrong browser. This is the right one. And we see where we can find the settings. So let's first have a look at which template paths are currently being used by the system. So by default, you can see I'm in Tapestry Configures, the global configuration, and you find in the mail block, you find layout root paths, you find partial root paths, and template root paths. And you see the default templates are coming from Core and Backend, and you can simply add your own if needed. Yeah, so no problem here. But if this is too much and you are actually fine, it can also be a bit more easy. You just go to the settings and go to the extension configuration and, well, change the color. I've used the default values from Bootstrap package to just show that there's another logo. You can input whatever you want. And we check out another color. We're now checking if the message will be red. So we are saving this, closing this, go to environment, send out another test email here, send it to someone, me. It's catched up in my mail log anyways, and you can now see, okay, that's done. So header is red. That's easy customizing. So back to the presentation. So yeah, HTML templates you sent out by Tapestry Core are now using the Fluid templating engine. You can customize whatever you want as you're used to with Tapestry, and you can also provide custom templates for the system generated notification emails or whatever you want. So, and that's it from my side. I can quickly show you the difference I just talked about. No, here, mail message, no, wrong window, here, fine. So this is what this is the mail message I've talked about previously. As you can see in the old instance using setBody. setBody is already a method in the Symfony MIME email, and well, does not accept the string anymore. So you actually just need to change it to HTML and you're good to go if you just need to upgrade it. So that's it. So, and then I guess Suzy has to do a bit of more nerd stuff with you. She's already grinning. I don't know if you can see it, but Suzy.
Yes, and I'm partly sorry at least, because it's getting a bit more technical. However, I need to explain dependency injection now because that's the base of a lot of cool stuff we did. So for those
And based
of
on the
you,
storyboard, you have 5 minutes.
yes, I know. So let's do this quickly. For a long time in TYPO3, basically only Xbase had dependency injection. So from Xbase, you might know that already, that you had these inject methods or constructor injection, and the other part of TYPO3 didn't have any concept of that. And with version 10 now, we get a PSR 11 compatible implementation of dependency injection for the complete TYPO3 core, thanks to Benjamin Franz, who did the main work on that. Yeah, in this area. So there is now dependency injection everywhere, and it's based on the Symfony component. So that's also why I only need 5 minutes, because mainly what I can say is, if you need to know things about dependency injection in TYPO3, just look at the Symfony documentation, which there is a lot of because they are using that for a lot longer, and you can get started quickly. But of course, and that's what you see in the screen share, because I'm proud that we have that, is we also have documentation about that. So you can also look that up in our documentation. And basically, just as a quick example, the most common use case you probably know is you have some kind of controller and you need the repository, and you are injecting that in one of 3 ways in the Xbase context with an inject method, via a property for the repository, or via constructor injection. And outside of Xbase, you can now use 2 of these 3 ways everywhere. So you can use constructor injection and you can use method injection. And as property injection is discouraged even in Xbase, that's enough for everybody. So let's do that. I have just quick notes. So please refer to the Symfony documentation. Please refer to the TYPO3 documentation if you want to get deeper in there. I have a quick example on the configuration that's mainly needed if you want to use that in your own custom extension, but please make sure that you read at least the basic documentation so you know what you're doing there. So this is basically it. I think you can see that. So I register all classes in the classes folder here in that namespace. And I can use every service class in there to inject my dependencies. That's it.
Susie, could you zoom in a bit for me? So my eyes are a bit...
No, I can't actually. That's
Okay.
why I made the font size on 20 something, because I can't zoom currently, because I disable zooming, because then I'm zooming all the time.
Benji, you can take a look at the high-res version of the video once YouTube is done streaming it. Hopefully that will work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You could also just open the services.yaml file in the about extension, which you have on your computer. Sure.
If I may interrupt for a quick minute. We're now almost an hour in and we planned 25 minutes. So we should...
I'm going quicker.
No zooming for Benji.
No zooming for Benji. No talking. What?
We don't zoom for anyone.
So basically, on the topic of dependency injection, I just have 2 hints that might make your life easier. If you are changing configuration of a dependency injection or adding dependencies, you should flush the caches in the TYPO3 install tool. Don't use this one, use this one, because that also... Oh no, I clicked it, so now it's getting even slower. This will also clear the dependency container, but as TYPO3 compiles that container, it takes a bit for the next request. So we only do that in the install tool. And the second one is just a hint for the future. we also marked Object Manager Get in Xbase context as deprecated because you should migrate to dependency injection everywhere you can. It will not trigger an error in version 10, but you should already avoid using that and migrate to the new dependency injection if you can. So that's it for the dependency injection part, and let me quickly go to the next topic. The next topic on my list is also technical, and people might ask why, but let me show you. What we did is we implemented PSR 14 events in TYPO3. So that's another standard, this one. And it has this beautiful goal. So the goal is to have common interfaces for dispatching and handling events. So we can make TYPO3 extendable by using a standard. Up until now, we had mainly hooks and signal slots for that. And there were some problems with both, especially with hooks. At least I always had the problem that I never knew how to use that particular hook because there were multiple different ways and I didn't know the properties. And well, it was kind of hard to find which hooks I could use without reading the code. And who has time to read the code all the time? So basically, PSR 14 now has a standard for these kind of things to extend that with a common way that can also be used from other frameworks. And PSR 14 consists of this is my nerd presentation. So Benji makes the beautiful ones and I make MD documents. So basically PSR 14 consists of components, again, like this one.
Merci.
So, okay.
Dankeschön.
We have a dispatcher, we have a listener provider, we have events, and we have listeners. So the dispatcher is basically what is dispatching the events. So which is the one which you call in your application and that place where you want to have an event triggered. And the listener provider is an internal component of the TYPO3 core, which provides the list of listeners registered to an event so we can trigger all these. Then we have the event itself. An event itself does not follow any interface or has no specific interface, but can basically be anything. Mostly they are final classes with defined properties. I have some examples here. For example, the System Information Toolbar Collector event, which is the event that is triggered to collect system information, toolbar information. The after file edit event, which is triggered after a file is added to TYPO3. So what you can already see is the event name itself is speaking and you can guess what it does. And there is one interface that can be implemented, that's the Stoppable event interface, because sometimes you have a chain of multiple events registered to one listener and you want to be able to stop executing that chain in case it's enough if one of the events says, okay, I'm finished here. So, and then we have the listeners themselves. So this is basically the new hook signal slot registration. And now we are back at the dependency injection, basically, because this is done via the services.yaml file via the dependency injection component, via the container, as we just tag that with the event listener tag here, as you can see. The current state is that we migrated all signal slots and hooks will follow in future versions. I prepared something else because, as I said, it was pretty hard for me to find which hooks, which signals, which way I could use in TYPO3 to extend what was happening. And in TYPO3 version 10 with events, we now have this information at least for the frontend in the admin panel. So if you have a request on a TYPO3 page and open the admin panel events section, you get a list of all events that were triggered on this page run. And you can also see which properties this one has. And as these are classes, you can then go to your favorite IDE and take a look at what methods that event has. And I prepared another example, which is my extension here, which is adding a little information to the system information toolbar. So this is the example from before. I have an event listener, and the class system information listener append message is called here, and basically just does this. So it adds a message to the system information toolbar, and we can also see that in the backend. If I find the system information toolbar, this is this beautiful message down here. Okay, you can also see which event listeners are registered in the configuration module. So you go to configuration and choose PSR14 event listeners, and then you have a list of all event listeners. And for example, we have the broken link analysis event. This event is used by the link validator for checking links. So let's look at the code. Yes, I know I said you wouldn't have to, but for understanding what's happening, that's actually pretty easy. So we have the HTML parser here from the TYPO3 core, which has a method for marking broken links and is actually dispatching an event. So what happens here is the event dispatcher is dispatched with the broken link analysis event, and that broken link analysis event is this class, and you can already see we have defined properties. And now I remember that I need to wait 1 or 2 seconds so the view can focus. I have methods here where I can mark the link as checked and get the link type, get the link data, and mark the link as broken or not. So this is perfect for the link validator. So the link validator then registers the event listeners for that thing. And you can see that here we have event listeners, and we listen to the broken link analysis event, and then we call check external link, check page link, check file link. So this is how the link validator actually checks the links. And if you look at the check itself, this is also basically completely done via auto-completion. So I get a broken link analysis event and can go like, okay, PHP Storm, tell me what this event can do for me. There's also much more complicated examples out there. For example, just at this weekend, there was a blog post published about caching, dependency injection, and events. And as we are out of time or need to go quicker, I just want to point to one part of this blog post. If you look at what he's doing here, we have a registration of an event listener, which is not listening to a concrete event, but rather listening to an interface. So this, if you are building applications with TYPO3 and are building custom events, you can also use events with interfaces and then listen to all the interfaces, so that you don't have to register a listener per event, but also can do that for the interface. But this is basically the developer porn example. So this is pretty advanced, and maybe you like to do easier stuff or are feeling overwhelmed by this. And there's of course easier and maybe more useful in the day-to-day work examples for event listeners, and for the easy stuff I'm handing over to Benji, because I'm more the developer porn girl, and Benji is like the easygoing guy. So
this
please,
came
Benji.
out so wrong.
Thank you for your trust, Susie. I always appreciate it. Yes. Let me just take over the screen. I wasn't prepared. I saw you are doing this also, but we can quickly make this happen. No problem. So, what I just spoiled already. So I was working on the syntax extension. I just need to switch to branch again so you can actually see it in action. So what the syntax extension does, it basically creates simple elements that let you add syntax highlighting through a complement, like this one here. No, this one not. This one. Yeah. So you can just insert some markup and we check whatever you want to have here, and well, just make it visible and see that this is coming up in the front end. So that's a really simple extension and not much to do. So, but what I always had the problem with is if we, for example, want to install an extension and just make it work. So it really just works. I had a problem with the Ckeditor. Because what I actually also want is I want to highlight some code within a normal text element, like you can see here in the backend. So this one is already prepared. It has a custom element, so we just do something else in here. So you can see it's just a normal element. It's just text with images. Maybe we use just text. And check if this one is also coming out in the front end. And then I will show you in a second what we're actually doing here. So this is normal
You're
text.
clicking way too fast for a stream, by the way.
Oh.
Just saying that there's a lot of JPEG artifacts going on, but go on.
Okay, sorry about this. I tried to make it a bit slower, but this is not really important. You just need to follow my actions and get an idea what I'm doing, so you not need to really see it. So the thing I want to have is when you install the syntax extension, I want to have this little button, this in the code block, because this actually provides a Ckeditor extension that let me do the same I already did with the custom elements, but within any content element that has a text area. So, and I can just do, I could insert HTML, I just paste it in here, and you can see, okay, this is a custom Ckeditor element. I save it. Doesn't make any sense, but it's coming up in the front end now, and you see, okay, this is some kind of highlighted. So what we are going to achieve with the PS14 events is exactly this. So we are using events to register this plugin automatically on installation with as soon as extension is activated, this plugin is available. So and we actually use go to configuration and then see our services YAML, and we see, okay, we registering a new service, that's the RTE config enhancer, and this is a type of event listener. We get an identifier, and we're listening for the event before get external plugins event. And the second one we're listening to is before prepare configuration for editor event. So this is the event that are in core used to prepare all the plugins you've loaded through your configuration and build the final configuration that actually will be that we will see as soon as you open any Ckeditor within the backend. And what we're now just doing is, so we get the event, and the event has some properties, and we just get the configuration that's loaded and just extending it and giving the configuration back. And the same we're doing for the external plugins. So we're adding it. And then in prepare configuration, we also activate this plugin. And this enables us to just install the extension and can make use of it without whatever RTE configuration already exists. It just works. So that's my easy example for my use case that I have for this. So Susie likes it. Okay, but since I also got the next topic, I just continued talking and I'll make this a quick one so we got a bit more time for the later hard stuff. So the next one that was improved in the backend, mainly through the work of Georg, I'm not quite sure. Someone not please. Yes, I guess at least he asked me 1,000 times to improve the styling and I didn't have time for this. So you now get a detailed view about any user within your Tapestry backend, where you can actually see what groups he's set it to, what mount points he have, what permissions he has, and so on, so on. So really, really cool stuff. And I actually think Georg really did a great job. So it's totally usable. It's fine. You see everything. So he didn't actually need my help at all. So that's phew. So, and what they also improved is the compare view you find in the backend. Like we got Dr. Henry Walton Jones Jr. and Henry Walton Jones Sr. And we need to check, okay, so how do their permissions compare? And you now can do this, and you can really compare to users and check all the permissions and see, okay, if a user should have some rights to do something and you can't figure out because the other user is similar, you can now directly compare them and figure out, okay, what's going on and what's missing. So pretty neat stuff. Yes, and then I would like to give back to Susie. She will tell you a bit about other stuff. So stop.
I'm going to talk about other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me talk about other stuff. So basically, I just have a quick note at this point. Maybe some of you remember the front-end login extension, which is part of TYPO3 since forever, which enables you to have front-end areas from the core without needing to install anything extra. That front-end login extension was pretty old school up until version 10, so you still had marker-based templating and it hadn't been refactored for quite some time, so not a bigger refactoring, but just smaller changes were done there. So now in version 10, we have a completely rewritten front-end login extension based on XBase and Fluid, so more in line with everything else we have and with the templating that we use everywhere else. So you can now override your login templates with Fluid and be happy about that. As that's a full rewrite and not just changing the templates, we are a bit more careful on upgrading. So if you upgrade from TYPO3 version 9 to version 10, you will not have that by default, but you need to enable that via a feature toggle in the TYPO3 backend settings module, so that you can carefully test if the XBase frontend login works for you. After you activate that, you get some upgrade wizards that help you migrate, for example, flex form settings and stuff like that. But please don't do that in production. Do that on a test system and see if the XBase based plugin is working for you. But it's pretty cool. There was also a dedicated team working on that. So again, people we need to thank. So thanks a lot to the FE login team for doing that and pushing that forward throughout the last, actually, I think it was years. So that's it on this topic. So that was a quick one. And I think I'm handing over to Andy.
Yes, I was just waiting for it. I'll grab the screen presentation.
grab it while it's hot.
I'm still grabbing. Okay, so with TYPO3 version 9, we just introduced the site configuration and the redirects handling. And as you know, the site configuration allowed us to introduce slugs for pages. Unfortunately, you can have conflicts in the redirects. For example, I have a page here with a feature slug, and I can create a redirect listening on the features slug as well, which would trigger redirect to another page, in this case, a pages page. Yeah, but if you have still linked the features page somewhere, you will get redirected to the pages page, which is hard to debug because you wouldn't probably find it in the first place, especially if you have a lot of redirects. So we just added a little helper for this. I just prepared something because you can also add it in the scheduler. We have an integrity check for redirects in place, which allows to check whether you have redirects that clash with still existing slugs in the page tree. I just configured it here. It runs once per day. You can configure it like you want. You can also run it via command line. I just skipped this part here. It's in the documentation. Everything is fine here. And if I just run it, it's already done. Nice. We can switch to the reports backend module and scroll a bit down. And you see we have conflicting redirects, which means that this page, this redirect still has a page which listens to the same slug. So we can easily find clashes and broken behavior in the front end because redirects are still in place, which are maybe not necessary, or somebody just forgot to update a slug for a page. And while we're talking about slug updates, let me show you another little feature you might enjoy. Where we open the page content examples, and maybe we don't like the name because it's too long or too hard to type in the address field. We just update the slug here. Nothing new. Saving might take some time here. Too much time? Yeah, and we're done. You see we have a notification about slugs getting updated, and we have redirects created. But why do we have redirects? Let us check in the page tree. Let's check in the subpage. You can see here the slug was updated as well for the child page, and for that child page, and for other child pages if there were some. So we finally implemented a recursive slug update for the page tree, but there are, you see we have redirects created. That's what the message says. This whole feature just works under two conditions. First, you have X redirects installed because for search engine optimization reasons, because otherwise we might update the slugs and break every URL already shared in the World Wide Web. So you need the extension so we can take care of having redirects for these updates. And the update will only work if the child pages share the same slug. Which means if the page is called content examples and the child page, I don't know, just examples, the update won't work because it doesn't find a common pattern in the slugs. Yeah, let's just take a look at the redirects. As you can see, we have a lot of redirects created, and if you have a lot of pages, you of course have more redirects as well. But maybe we don't want the redirects, maybe because we just created these pages. So we have a notification here with some buttons you can click. Let's just click the one that kills the redirects. It's a spinner and it does things. Let's reload the backend module, and it removed all redirects that were created just a few seconds ago. And these buttons that I showed you are API. You can use them here as well. So we have two types of buttons. These are the immediate actions, which are used for executing immediate actions, like the name already says. That's suitable for stuff like you click a button and then you maybe open a page in a new window, or you redirect to another backend module. And we have deferred actions, which are most suited for stuff that may take some time to execute or does some heavy lifting, like an AJAX request, like we just saw in the reward handling. In this example, I'm just saying, okay, the action is done after 30,000 milliseconds. So we click that button, and because it's a deferred action, we get that nice spinner rendered. And we have an example for this in the style guide extension. I can just demonstrate it here. Flash messages, notifications, and we render notice. You see, we have the immediate action, which just renders, and then the alert unfortunately blocks the whole rendering, so it just hides when I click OK. And we can do the same again. Call the deferred action. Just take some time, exactly 3 seconds, and then the alert pops up, and we can close everything. The action buttons are designed to close the notification once the action has been successful. If an error occurred somewhere in the call, then the notification stays there. And the spinner, I think, is still spinning, which should indicate that there is something wrong, very likely. So you might check the browser console or maybe add some error handling to the callbacks. And while we are introducing some new features in the JavaScript world, we have some other features for you, which I can show you in the PHP Storm here. Like you know, like you probably know, we started to remove jQuery step by step because the library is not really required anymore in today's web development. There are some still some tools and tricks that makes it easier for us. And we're not there yet to completely remove jQuery, but we start with some most required APIs we have. And the first one is the AJAX request API. AJAX request API is based on the fetch API modern browser supports. Modern means in starting with Edge, so no Internet Explorer support, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. And I think the API is pretty straightforward. To have a request, you just boot up a new AJAX request object, which just requires the URL you want to request. And you might add some additional query arguments to the URL. This is a lot pain in the current state of development, because the URL you pass here might have some variables. You might just don't know that because it's a variable or it's somehow generated. And the web arguments method automatically takes care of this because it checks whether the URL has already a query string and just appends the new object properly. And it also works with nested arguments, nested objects, sorry. And in this example, we just do a simple GET request indicated by .get. And if this is successful, we can listen to the response. It's a AJAX response object. It's basically a wrapper for the native response we deliver, we get from the browsers, and we wrap this to have some some nice features for the developers, which should development a little bit easier. The response object gives us a resolve method, which automatically converts the content of the response into the proper object we might have based on the content type header. So if we get a text slash HTML, for example, as response, as content type header in the response, we get a string. And if it's application JSON, we automatically get a JSON object. But if we maybe need a real response object, so we can use response.raw, which will get a real response object, and we can get a JSON header, JSON content. We can ask for headers that were sent, and we can do a lot more low-level stuff here. And since we're using promises, then we have here takes a second function for error handling. In this case, we just log simply which status code and text and response text came back to indicate which error occurred exactly. And the console log is just an example, and you can do anything what you want. And we don't have just get requests, but also post requests. So the handling is pretty much the same, but a little bit different in the handling. We have a simple payload here, which you can see is also nested. And Ajax requests still gets the URL we want to request. And the post method actually takes this nested payload and it converts it automatically in the correct form that should be sent to the client, to the server. And we have the same handling as in the get request. We can get a response automatically, or we can get a raw response object and do our custom stuff. And we have error handling here as well. Yeah. But Ajax is not the only thing we use from jQuery. jQuery also has some event handling that makes it easy to register events for a lot of elements, or to make it, it feels snappy when you use it. And we just came up with an own API for this. And I spoiled already, great. We have some kind of event listener strategies, and I'll try to explain that to you. Some of them are quite hard to understand if you didn't use those concepts somewhere else right now. So the first one is a regular event, which is a very simple listener, which could react on clicks, for example. To get a simple click event here, you can access the properties of the event, and you can bind that event listener to one single element, or you can delegate this listener to a set of elements that are within document. In this example, using event delegate to would result in every element that has the class my event triggered by class would react on the click we just registered here. And we have some other strategies here. We have the Throttle Event, which is quite interesting if you have an event that is triggered rather often in a short amount of time, for example, scrolling through a page. Some browsers already have this natively implemented, others don't have. So we just gave the API to you for this. I try to explain this to you. If you have a scroll event that is triggered for an amount of, let's say, 2 seconds, then you have a very lot triggers for the scroll event. It depends on how fast you're scrolling. And Throttle Events allows us to limit the execution of the event listeners in this case, for 100 milliseconds, which means that every 100 millisecond, the event listener is executed. The time of this 2000 milliseconds the scroll event is actually triggered, which brings a performance benefit as we don't react on any event or every event of type scroll that is triggered, but just in a span of 100 milliseconds. I can recommend to read the documentation about this and also to read some blog posts about this. It's quite hard to understand if you didn't use it right now somewhere else. But we have another event strategy, that's a debounce event. A debounce event behaves similar to the throttle event, but with a major difference that the event listener is either executed right before the series of events starts or after a waiting time after the last occurrence of the event. Which means in this example, we have to listen on the key up event, which means we are having an input field we're listening to. And I'm just typing into that input field, and 200 milliseconds after the last key up event, the event listener is actually executed, which comes in handy if you have an suggest feature, for example, in your input field. Otherwise, if you use a regular event, every key up would trigger this Ajax request, for example, to get a result set for your input that you did. And that's probably not what you want. So we implemented this also in the install tool, in the documentation search. Previously, every keystroke would trigger a new search for all documents, which was had a quite huge impact on performance in a negative sense. And using the debounce event allows us to relax the request to the servers and just send a request when the last key up event was sent to the from the client. And every event strategy allows us to remove the listener once we don't need it anymore. There are use cases for this if you can simply drop it. For example, if you decide to disable an element or whatever use case you have. And these APIs I just showed you are also used in the feature Susie will introduce to you now.
That was fun. Thanks, Andy. So actually, there's one last feature missing we want to show you. And this is the one you have probably already heard about, dashboards. So now we finally have dashboards in TYPO3, and I'm totally excited because I can now have my very own dashboards with my very own widgets, and I can do everything I want with them. So this, I might also sound a bit excited. Sorry, I'm trying to be a little bit less excited. What you can see currently is a default dashboard with default TYPO3 widgets. So the dashboard extension that you can reach by clicking on the top left dashboard has a set of default widgets that are delivered with the TYPO3 core. For example, this information about TYPO3 or reading the security advisories or TYPO3 news, which you can also move around. Whee! Isn't it nice? And we also have some chart widgets already. So this is not actually a chart, but a table, but never mind. We have numbers of errors in the system log. We have type of backend users. We have failed backend logins. And actually, this is coming from an extension already. So there's already an extension delivering a widget. So this is displaying the currently online users, which is the test user, which is me. Okay, so this is the set of widgets that is delivered by the core. So I can reach them here and add some more if I want to, like let's take the status struct report and edit. This probably happens if you open like 16 at once. Let me try that again. The report might take some time. Yes, I have a security risk in my installation on my local system. So this is how it looks. So basically it ran all the status checks now in the background and is now displaying me directly that I should probably check my settings. Yes, I'm going to do that later. And now you have for your own project 2 ways to handle widgets, because while the TYPO3 widgets are pretty nice, you probably want to have project specific widgets in your project so you can really create widgets that are usable for your editors or the administrators of the system that are dependent on what you are doing with your installation. And one way to achieve that is to use one of the widgets that TYPO3 delivers and change its configuration so that it can display other things. For example, for the chart widgets, you can change the data provider, so you can fetch data from somewhere else and display that as a chart. And I, for example, did the ultimate news overview here by using the RSS widget for everything. So I added lots of TYPO3 blocks to this overview, so I never miss a blog post. And we can have a very quick look, if I look at the time, a quick look at how to configure something like this. So I have my famous host extension here, and this is again based on the dependency injection services.yaml file. So I have a configuration here for my TYPO3 com block widget, which basically says, okay, I have host widget type3.com, which is an RSS widget, and it gets these arguments. So this is, I'm lazy, I mentioned that, I think. So I copied this just from the documentation, which we also again have already. And it just adjusted the settings. So basically I am copying this part and changing the feed URL to the TYPO3com block RSS feed, and I changed the identifier in the group and the title. Of course, you should probably use, if you're using that in projects, language labels here, which you can do, but lazy again. I have just the title and description directly, and this is pretty much the same as everywhere. So these are configurable widgets where you just change some settings and have completely new widgets. So I have TYPO3com and the Simon widget and the Daniel widget and the Andy widget. So everybody gets a widget. And this results in this overview. So I have all these here and can add them, and this is actually where I did that. And if it's not enough, so if the widgets that the TYPO3 core provides aren't enough for you and you want to have your completely custom, fancy, project-specific widget which can basically contain whatever you want, you can also write completely new widgets, which is nearly as easy. So we go back and scroll a bit down. At the bottom here, you can see I have a widget called Fritz, and that's a completely new widget. And I register not as before one of the core widget classes, but my own widget class, which is also called Fritz. It gives some configuration options like title and description and the basics here. And then you can have your widget class, which implements the widget interface, And as you can see, it's not that complicated. So what I'm doing here is just using the view to assign the configuration and render that. And then I have a fluid template where I can output some stuff. So this is not actually doing anything project specific, but it's just adding a bit of music, I guess, to my TYPO3 backend. And let's see, that works. So who knows the song? Maybe somebody knows. Yep, basically that's it for
The
creating.
second magic should be question, by the way.
That's correct.
So who knows the song now?
So let's fix that. This is correct. So basically, this is how you can register completely new widgets. I'm also losing my headset, so don't wonder about that. If you want more information, Daniel Siebmann already provided the documentation for that, and the whole dashboard initiative, and especially Richard Heser did a lot of work in this area to make this easy and smooth to use, and thanks again there. Also, because I mentioned that extension that already provides a widget, that's, let me quickly check. Widgets. There's a dashboard widgets extension on the Friends of TYPO3 repository. So you can install that already, and we want to collect widgets there because not every widget needs to be in the core, but maybe there are useful widgets for the TYPO3 world that we can collect in one place. So this Friends of TYPO3 widgets, and it's actually on GitHub. So this is just getting started, but check it if you want and play around with widgets and tell us your favorite widget or show us your favorite widget and publish widgets and have fun with the dashboards. I'm already having fun and magic. So that's it for the dashboard. I hope I didn't miss too much. And I'll head back to Matthias, I think. No, I don't.
It's me, Mario.
It's you again.
CC.
Yes. So we're pretty close to the end. So we're
Of the stream.
Of the stream, yes, whatever.
Don't say such things
I'll
during
take
a global
any end.
pandemic.
I'll take any end. So let's continue my presentation. Entire screen, this one, and I just want to wrap up the version 9 release we're currently doing. So it's really great. I found a quote from Benny that's really putting it. So Tapestry version 9 is finally released. That was fun. I don't want to use any other version anymore. Best version ever, really. Feels like we put so much passion in a Tapestry release before. So that's really true for this release, right? And for the numbers we really crunched for you is that 24 hours later, we already had 20 compatible extensions. Oh, wait, wrong presentation, right? So let me just fix this. Sorry. This was totally unintended. I wanted to really continue here. So yes, as Susie mentioned, we have really many more exciting features waiting for you, and you can all find them in the What's New slides. So that was our stuff for today. But let's go a bit further and let's have a quick look at the Tapestry universe in general, and let that number sink in, please. This is 760%. So what does it mean? In comparison to version 9, we have 760% more compatible extensions. So what you can see now currently in the when you go to extensions.tapestry.org, you find a very slow number, but that's only through the version number adjustment that just came out. But we actually, let's just skip this. We currently have 176 mostly compatible extensions that will probably be updated soon. So sorry for the slight pun. I just wanted to because we had in the General Assembly today the question how Tapestry is doing, and I guess we're doing really, really great. So all the efforts come into place. People are using it. People are starting having more trust in sprint versions. They're taking it more early on, and they're liking the platform. It's stable, so there's no reason to not use it. So I just put it in not accidentally, but quickly. But I want to go over some other changes. Because not only Tapestry, the CMS is improving, but the whole ecosystem is really, really growing. And that's really, really great to see. So what you may have noticed, if you visit any of the big websites, so we're starting at the documentation theme that just got rebuilt. We got finally a good starting point where people are taken at the hand, and well, you're not lost anymore. So there's still a lot of work to do, but there's explanation how the documentation is organized, how to create a theme, how to develop custom extensions, how to configure it. So it's really at your hand. Yeah. The search now works better. And what I wanted to mention is you also and now don't get lost anymore if you hit any platform, because we introduced this universe bar you see here at the top. You can go to services, you find all professional services you need, you get direct access to the community, you get the extensions, you get the documentation, and obviously you get to our immensely growing platform of how to get Tapestry. So that is really great. And Simon Gilly took over to this personal mission to make this the best platform ever, I fear. So Sudhi at some point told me she couldn't come up anymore with all the changes he's pushing. So she just gave him commit rights and said, "You're doing great. Go for it. It's your stage." And he's really doing it. So what you can now see, we have a complete restructured menu here. So we get the download buttons, the download area, the release notes, and we started moving all the composer information that was previously available on composer.tapestry.org, and now we are all collecting it in one place, so making it for users really, really easy to get started with the Tapestry system, and linking to packages and providing all that information. And well, it's all at your hands. Yeah, so you can't miss information anymore. And even if you get here and you want to download it, you get the information how to getting started and an installation guide. And if you need more extended support because your project is really big and long running, you also get the direct entry points here. So that's awesome. And one of the little changes Simon did in the last time, you may know the composer helper that's putting you the command together to require a composer version, and you now can specify exact releases for 8, 9, and 10, any versions. So and it's all automatically updated, so you don't require any versions you don't need, or extensions that do not exist anymore. There was a problem in the past. That's really, really cool. The next thing I wanted to point out here is that you get all informations about the release on get.tapestry.org. You also get the information how long the support cycle is and when ELTS support cycle ends. Yeah, that means you can now start planning ahead with your customers, and you don't have to wait for anyone to give you these informations. The another problem we figured out is, okay, that's great that we got ELTS, but what's the current version? You also now find this information right at your fingertips here, and you get all the informations about the security patches are included in this release. 8 is currently not done yet, so we can see what's release notes for version 7, the last security release. Okay, so these are the fixes that are included. So this is not something imaginable or not going there. It belongs to the great product strategy we have, so that we can really give the clients the best value. And no, I don't want email notifications now, even if their toys are great. Yes, it gives you more security on this side. Yeah. So let me just quick jump back to see my notes. Yes, we got it. All major platforms linked. So that's a great achievement. That's something we really wanted to get running about multiple years now. The design team started the idea with the Universe bar like 4 or 5 years ago, and we finally got it implemented in all platforms, and we got everyone on board. We got the Docs team on board. We got the T3O team on board. And we get it rolling. So that's really, really cool. Yeah. And I really like to thank everyone who is involved in this process. So the last things to say, I don't know. I grab Tapestry, get it. I end the presentation so you can see the lovely faces of the persons are involved here in this stream. I like to thank Matthias for putting so much energy in getting this stream even running. So that was a hard time. Sound quality issues, management issues. So really, really good done. Andy, who was stepping up and sharing his experience. Suthi for being Suthi, just the loved one. Always great. So yeah, thank you all. And now we actually got time for additional questions, or we can just go. Let's just take us. Can go for party, right? Party mode.
I don't know. You can all go. Like
you can all go.
Is there any questions? Oh boy!
Start the party mode.
Oh boy! All right.
You're not partying.
Nope. No party people.
No party people.
No. There's no party people coming. No. And we don't know why.
Yes. Cheers to the release. Since we're on YouTube, we are drinking water.
This is actually tap water, which is pretty warm.
Yep.
Tasty. But hey,
awesome.
Party. Can somebody dance? Wants to
No.
dance with me?
Matthias, do you want to give us a fresh beat?
You'll laugh. I'm currently trying to get audio running, but it seems that there's no way to put that onto stream.
What? How did you manage to get it before?
I have no clue. Maybe because the freaking Hangout wasn't running, or you were muted or something.
Yeah, it's always my fault.
So the file is playing, and singing dubstep is not good.
But
No.
Right?
But I can. You know what? Let me try something else.
What is Andy doing? Why does he take?
I don't know.
What's going
Google
on?
Chrome. Let's try.
Unmute Andy.
Is this the right one?
Yeah, the voice.
Let's try.
Non-existent music.
That works. Okay.
Let's go party.
Yes, we're basically signing out, and we wish everyone a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I stay in this outfit now forever. This is okay if I work like this every day? Yeah. gonna do a dance battle. I'm not a dancer. I started it. Yes. I'm not a dancer. I can't dance. I can look stupid.
I can dance here.
I can also but I'm having fun with it. Just fun with it.
Not sure what my wife says about more stuff. Dance.
What is your can walk you walk.
I don't know.
That's the hard part. Yeah, totally done.
Where is it?
Go, Ben. Just you are there for us.
Yes. We dance to imaginable music. Oh, it's only on the screen, not for us. Matthias don't like to share the music with us.
I have my regular 90s playlist in my mind.
You're all on stream, you know that?
Yep.
Yes.
No.
That's why we are still talking English. And
Mhm.
that's why I have LED unicorn.
Okay,
What?
so you take your LED unicorn. Yeah, you're all fine. We'll go here. Have a good night. Stay safe. Enjoy TYPO3 version 10, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.